Star Citizen has been hyped up many times over the years for various reasons. Sometimes it pans out, sometimes not so much. The upcoming Alpha 323 is the latest victim of Space Nerd Fury, and it's a big one. In fact, the biggest update we've seen since 3.0 back in 2018. This update is huge: a new star map, massive ground locations, a new HUD, mini-maps, loot UI, freight elevators, improved interactions, more and more and more. There's so much you should wait to see it before you believe it. But this time is distinctly different from the past. Every single thing I'm about to show you, save for a dynamic event, has been shown working in a live game environment between now and last October. And while these features are all tentative to show up in April of 2024, they are not confirmed. So you decide just how much you believe Star Citizen is about to receive what appears to be its first true "I'm a game" update. Because with the move of Squadron 42 devs back over to Star Citizen, things seem to be changing. So sit back and drink up all the new content we might be experiencing in the next couple months. This is your early preview of Star Citizen Alpha 323. Thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk. As it is law, we will always start out with the new star map. This is a drastic update from the bare bones version we've been using since 2018. We will now have access to an interface that works with functioning search and trip planning. Beyond that, we don't know everything that this first update will include, but we'll surely hear more in an upcoming ISC episode, and I'll be covering it in depth later in this quarter. The mobiGlas is being reworked, with the main screen being replaced entirely, and the rest of the menu receiving a building blocks update to improve usability. Alongside the home screen, we will be seeing a reworked map app, obviously, the new contract manager, and an updated journal app. There will still be plenty more to do with this in-game menu, like a shopping app, security app, and more, but the overall usability of this system should improve a lot in 323, and we'll start to see those new designs we've been waiting for quite some time. Continuing with UI, we have the visor and lens rework. It's called visor and lens because many elements of the HUD in this game are based on you physically wearing an object, either a visor or a lens. This rework breaks up that system into the necessary components to work with the internal building blocks UI building tool. The new HUD appears much more polished, dynamic, and intuitive in its design. It's a bit more out of the way while also looking more substantial. This rework will likely improve the overall HUD, mission objectives, and add a pitch and compass marker for better FPS navigation. And what better way to help with navigation than a new mapping system? We have been completely without map navigation outside of ships for almost a decade now. And for the first time, an interior map and a mini-map will be added to the game so you can properly tell the exact part of the ship you've glitched into. In the long term, these maps will need to be downloaded or acquired in some way for new locations. So you'll still have to do some work to navigate, but a reliable system like this should make the game much more intuitive and approachable. Downloading and finding these maps also will help to push forward the exploration and data running professions, which I'm a big fan of. At this early stage, it's hard to know how many features will be included in this map update, but I'll be sure to let you know as we learn more. Looting is another FPS system that's actually pretty crucial to a lot of players. FPS combat does come up often, and even if you aren't shooting folks, you might be picking up after those who do. Those weapons make a lot of money. In Alpha 323, instead of fidgeting around with a word menu always appearing in a slightly different place, you'll have a menu dedicated to swapping, customizing, and consolidating your weapons, armor, and ammo on the fly. As long as server performance agrees, this could greatly improve the looting experience. Though I'm still looking for more detail on the feature as we don't know where this looting interface ends and other inventory interactions begin. Speaking of interactions, the personal interaction system has been a pain for the entirety of Star Citizen, 10 years plus. It seems to be a running theme. Over time it's slightly improved, but never gotten close to what you'd expect from a AAA published game. In 323, that changes with a clear default button prompt that can clue new players into what's interactable. A better interaction wheel with changeable default and secondary actions will also be included for objects that are not physically interacted with. Key to note, that physical interaction system doesn't appear to be included with 323, so still more to come. And this won't necessarily clean up all the jank, but it is one part of the many quality of life improvements that aim to do so this year. There are actually some pretty hefty Arena Commander updates coming to the game this patch. In 3.23, we will actually be seeing the long-awaited engineering gameplay enter Arena Commander as an experimental mode for testing and gameplay. This is one of the biggest features added to the game in quite some time, and somehow manages to build even more hype for 3.23. If you want to learn more about how this system will work, we've done a deep dive on that on the second channel, link down below. We'll also be seeing a new game mode that's all about hovercraft deathmatch in an arena setting, the opening of the asteroid race course for other game types like deathmatch, and biggest of all, custom lobbies are being added to allow for any game mode to be played on any map with custom game rules. This is a huge addition for training, showing off the game, and bringing in new players, and is another step closer to Arena Commander being just another appetizer for the PU. Hangars, the longest running location in the game, another 10+ years thing. Hangars are what started Star Citizen, but they were never able to be the home or workshop that players wanted. There was no game built around the use of hangars, there was no persistence to save them. There was not a need for them to persist as there is now. But with 3.23, Star Citizen will receive instanced hangars. These are persistent hangars that allow a player to spend as much time as they need curating and managing their cargo and vehicles. You'll be able to invite your friends, but other players will not have access. You won't be rushed out by a timer, and at our home locations they will act as personal hangars and will be customizable in both interior and layout. These hangars will eventually lead to our ownership and rental of real estate across the game that allows for logistics and strategy, but will also provide a money sink in fees and taxes. For now though, just the hangars. And with those hangars come freight elevators, the final culmination of the cargo refactor, which began in earnest in March of 2023, and another major step in the player inventory system. What this change will do is physicalize every object you own in a central storage facility at your home location. From here you can use a kiosk to your hangar to call all of the things and move them onto your ships manually. You will also be able to store and retrieve small personal items at kiosks in various locations throughout the game when you need. This kiosk change will also handle your account-bound items like subscriber items and referral bonuses at another location, so you'll never miss those items again. This is the way of inventory from now on. The move to fully physicalized is almost done, and with this change, players will have to manually account for and move anything they want to transport or use. This is meant to heavily localize the way you play and emphasize your ship as a home or storage area on the go. Expect to hear a lot more about this feature over the coming months, as this is one of the biggest singular changes to the core of the game we've seen. One of the most frustrating things in Star Citizen is EVAing around a space and smacking your feet, spinning your whole body uncontrollably, and basically rendering all movement useless for a couple seconds. That's expected to change in 3.23 as well. Now you'll just be running face first into that wall. Movements in EVA are going to be more streamlined for better maneuverability in small spaces, and transitions are being improved so we do less flopping around. This change also prepares for the EVA system to function like ships. Players will essentially EVA uncoupled, and have a limited amount of fuel based on the suit they're wearing. This encourages players to strategize between a tractor beam with batteries, an EVA suit with fuel, and using your hands to push and pull. These developments will be coming later, but for now the new EVA animations should help a lot with getting around. And while some suits won't have EVA fuel, some helmets won't have a crosshair. Armor specialization is an important part of Star Citizen. Hot and cold protection have been explored, but radiation and more utility-focused armors will provide additional advantages as well. A dynamic crosshair that can display where each bullet fired from your weapon will land can be turned on for certain combat-focused helmets, offering an equipment-based upgrade to those willing to take it. This is an important part of avoiding RPG-like skills that could determine aim via skill points. These armor, weapon, and ship-based advantages should be popping up more and more to diversify and specialize your gameplay. What we'll be looking to find out more about this feature in the coming months, though, is whether it can be disabled and just how many helmets will have it equipped. Now, we've been screaming about hair since I was a wee lad in Star Citizen years. It's been a long time, and even now we are still waiting for the pinnacle of hair. However, that doesn't mean we can't wet our beaks. The character customizer seen at CitizenCon last year is expected in 3.23 to finally, hopefully allow me to bring Sergeant Johnson to Star Citizen. Though we don't know specifically what will be included. The customizer, yes, but what are additional customization options? Do those include more textured and curly hairstyles, makeup, skin conditions, the ability to dye my hair in all the places? I need these things, and we won't know just how much of them we get beyond the new pseudo-sculpting method, which is essentially a guarantee. More info to come on this soon, but at least expect a new character customizer in the next major update. Meanwhile, one of the most important aspects of progression in Star Citizen is finally seeing an update as well. This is that feature that determines whether a gang or security squad is going to shoot at you because you work against their company, or whether you'll be allowed into a certain space station because you like to do business with a certain group. NPC hostility being based on reputation means players will need to consider the places they go and who owns them, and what missions they're taking. Especially important for Pyro, but this will start making a difference in the outposts around Stanton as well. It could also be used to determine what side of an event you are registered for when joining. Siege of Orison, Xenothreat, and the upcoming Blockade Runner all put security forces against recognized gangs. Who will you be fighting for? Distribution centers really doesn't capture the entirety of what these locations are. These new locations are essentially small landing zones that are more focused on industrial and commercial gameplay than social spaces. If you were to split the game into archetypal locations, you have cities, outposts, towns, space stations, and these centers. And while they'll be used for the combat gameplay, group-based raids, and other emergent gameplay, they also will be expanded to host vast underground labyrinths, data centers, logistics locations, and cargo depots. These will act as starting off, ending, and midpoints for mission chains, player tasks, and even localized ground-based gameplay. They may possibly connect to cave networks or even other landing zones, as well as planetary road systems for localized travel when it becomes more common in the game. In 3.23 though, just the above ground portion. Of all the features listed today, this is the least systemic and most physical of them all in my opinion, ignoring the hangars and stuff. But this is also one of the most forward-looking features, a location in Star Citizen that will undoubtedly be here in the alpha phase and long after the beta in ways we probably wouldn't consider just yet. And finally for features, Master Modes is expected to be added to all ships, adding SCM and Nav mode to their flight systems and retuning all ships to fly based more on what their roles dictate. This is a major change that takes the flight model back towards the pre-3.0 experience with some twists. Once implemented, this system will separate navigation methods like high-speed flight of 400+ meters per second and quantum travel from functional operation, or standard combat mode. This isn't just combat though. Mining, salvaging, towing, and other functions will be unavailable in Nav mode. But this isn't a product of power balancing or engineering. This distinction will be forced on every ship along with a time buffer that occurs when switching between modes. Now this time buffer will be determined by your ship, the way you're flying, your ship's role, the components it has, and possibly other factors. So while there will be some level of discomfort during this transition, which will need to be tuned for a multitude of scenarios, it also will be changeable based on what you prefer as a player. Now the overall goal here is to slow down combat, something they've been trying to do but couldn't quite accomplish even with earlier updates. This slowing down of combat makes for more engaging battles and visuals, but has been a contentious topic for the community in both combat and non-combat focused circles. There's much more to discuss about this system, but the inclusion of it in every ship along with balance passes all taking place in 3.23 is much more than I expected. In addition, guns will be losing their gimbal limitations in accordance with the new precision mode. This is a heavily zoomed in combat mode to help with the targeting of components or specific locations on a ship. It uses a custom UI with plenty of information and seems to be either adjustable or changes based on range. While this obviously is in preparation for capital ship gameplay, it will also be important for engineering, which will be affected because your gunshots do damage to the specific part of the ship they hit. This coincides with master modes to largely change the combat experience going forward for all players. It'll be an ongoing process to make this system work for the whole game over years and years to come, but initially our flight systems may see their final major change in the next major update. And then there's the economy, this sort of nebulous mass of stuff that's kind of waiting to make the game better but not quite here. It's finally making some good progress. Last year, the economy team was split out and created from the systemic services and tools team, and they've been spending the time since analyzing the game, its objects, ships, and the loops that players are playing to better understand what things should be priced as. While this will long-term take into account materials, destinations, and other factors that would raise prices, it's good to hear that all of the objects in game will be brought to a standard that can allow us to understand how much money we might need to make per day. And to wrap things up, we have a new dynamic event. Expected last year, Blockade Runner is a new ship-focused event revolving around combat-escorted cargo runs. Meant to replace Ninetales Lockdown, which you probably never played, this new version aims to push players to team up and muscle their way through to a space station blockaded by pirates. Your goal is to get into the station safely, buy up the Quantanium being held behind enemy lines, and then brave your way back through the blockade to sell elsewhere. It's not the most complex event, but it engages with factions, ship combat, cargo hauling, and some economic ramifications. Hopefully this event gives players additional varied large-scale gameplay and lets CIG further test some of these systems. This is a hefty list of additions for Star Citizen even in a year, let alone one update. The chances of each of these features making it into 3.23 is low, but I suspect quite a few of them will. And there are features that will be added to this list, more details that will clarify what exactly is included, and plenty of Inside Star Citizen episodes providing more coverage on each feature. Development has clearly shifted over the last year, and with Squadron 42 mostly complete, the game engine reaching a mature level, and CIG acquiring and building up more of these crucial teams, the rate of feature additions and improvements to Star Citizen may be increasing quite a bit. With things like engineering, exploration, refining, and even another star system deep in development, the rest of 2024 is also looking pretty good. But if you'd like high-quality, consistent updates on what is coming to the game and when, I've got you covered. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you want to get more content like this. And if you want podcast deep dives into subjects like the economy, AI, or all the ships coming in 2024, and other long-form content, Space Tomato 2 should help. And maybe you're looking for some gameplay. Well, we are launching our newest YouTube channel, Space Tomato Plays, in the coming week, where we will publish my general gameplay videos as well as high-quality narrative cinematic pieces. So consider subscribing to that channel as well. Finally, supporters of our channel get exclusive videos throughout the year, live access to all of our podcasts, and at a certain tier, your referral code will be added to our randomizer at the bottom of every video. You can join us down below or over on Patreon. And if you're keeping an eye out for that Drake Vulture giveaway we've been running ending at the end of this month, you'll be able to use the secret code SAUCY on the screen right now for a couple extra entries. I hope you learned something new in this video, and I'll catch you in the next.